You know, I hate how it fades out now because I feel like it loses comedic effect. I love the just abrupt stop of the intro, and so I got to figure out like a new way around that. I'll figure that out, folks. But welcome to another edition of Day After Dynamite, because it's Thursday, and you know what that means. It means it's time to ignite the dynamite the day after the dynamite. I'm Will Washington, but I'm not alone here. Folks, I am joined by the one and only Kylie Fuller. Kyler. Kylie, thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited.
Yes, and it's funny. That overbooker at the bottom is a typo, but it's actually kind of funny. So I'm just going to keep it that way. But welcome to Day After Dynamite. Welcome you to Day After Dynamite. It's Thursday. It's a lot to talk about today. But oddly enough, this is one of those rare times where we're a day removed from Dynamite. And as far as Dynamite's concerned, nothing but good to talk about. It was all good stuff. I thought it was a great show. I thought Dynamite kind of went off without a hitch. I thought Winter is Coming basically lived up to the previous iterations of such. I thought it had some cool moments. And at the end of the day, people are really excited about future stuff. And that is obviously the thing that like Tony Khan hopes for. You'd never necessarily want to walk away with Day After Dynamite having something crazy to discuss or having some scoops. I know that those episodes tend to do the best. So I I know that those are good for me, but they're not necessarily good for the environment. Now that said, there's some news as a whole. There's news kind of all across the wrestling landscape. We are going to talk a little bit here about, which I know you got to discuss a little bit this morning, talking about a little bit of Mandy Rose stuff. I know that doesn't necessarily tie into Dynamite other than the fact that, of course, with anybody released from World Wrestling Entertainment, there's always the question of, will Tony Khan sign them? Should Tony Khan sign them? Are they going to go back? Who knows? So there's at least that aspect of things to talk about. Also, Mercedes rumors continue to persist. She ain't doing anything to shut them down. Nobody's doing anything to shut them down, which is always the thing to, that's always what piques me. That's always what gets me going. Because I'll tell you, in my experience of trying to get news out of people who know in professional wrestling and specifically in AEW, people in the know really take pride in telling you when you're wrong. And that is one of the things that we've always taken away from all of that. That when you don't have the right information, as Sean mentioned the other day, he asked somebody in AEW who really prides himself on telling Sean when he's wrong. And they aren't giving him an answer at all. I definitely put out some roundabout questions. I figured, look, I'm not going to necessarily ask who it is because I know I'm never going to get that answer. I'm never going to ask if it is this person because I know I'm not going to get that answer. I know that, look, on an official capacity, no one's going to spoil that for me. But I figured a good way to get around all of that, to at least get some kind of clarity, because that's really what I was looking for, was just clarity here, was I did ask, officially I asked AEW, in an on-the-record capacity, will it remain a mystery until January 14th, or are there any plans to reveal it beforehand? No sold. Nothing. I got 0 on that. Ooh. And I thought, won't even answer if it's going to stay a mystery.
It's so juicy.
I know. And it could be nothing at all, because that's the beauty of this, is that there's all of this speculation right now over what it is, who it is, and we can't get anything, and that makes it more fun. And I feel like the people who know that it is just making it more fun and a little bit crazier. And so I don't know. I mentioned last week that I had somebody in AEW mention to me that they don't think Tony would announce something that far in advance without it being some kind of surprise. And like history has shown that, right? That like
Mhm.
AEW has announced a lot of stuff fairly last minute. You know, they'll announce, look, we don't even know what's on Dynamite fully next week, and we won't know till Rampage airs. And even sometimes there were 2 matches for this week's Dynamite that were announced day of. And so they're like, look, Tony's track record tends to announce things closer to when they happen. And the fact that they announced this match with a month to go, uh, is one of those we want people speculating kind of things. So we'll see how that ends up. I am very curious. I don't know. What are your thoughts on all of that?
I'm so excited by this. I think, a lot of people have speculated maybe it's returning Thunder Rosa or something like that. But I don't know. Just the whole nature of, the silence. The silence is deafening. Announcing it, a month in advance, really building it up. And, the Mercedes to New Japan news and reports happening at the same time. And the reports New Japan can't afford her, but maybe AEW can afford her. I don't know. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And for me personally, I think I was always, she's not going. She's going back to WWE. But I don't know. I'm starting to get sold on it. Like there's just too much coincidentally happening.
you almost you almost sell yourself so much on it that if she did show up in WWE, and that's the,
Mhm.
I don't know. I still don't know. Look, obviously we have percentage watch 2022, and my percentage for Sasha to AEW, I tweeted out 60% last week. I'm at still about like 73% right now is where I'm at. I think next week is going to be a really big indicator of a lot of
Mhm.
things, because if it were to be somebody like Thunder Rosa, next week is when I'd announce that because they're in Thunder Rosa's hometown, right? They're in San Antonio next week. Um, like I could very well see Jamie retaining her title over Sheeta and then them jumping her and then Soraya and Thunder Rosa coming to make the save and they announce that's the tag partner. Like that's a perfect way to play that out. But I feel like if you're going to announce Thunder Rosa, if you're going to give Thunder Rosa a comeback moment, it's that. But there's also stories out there that Thunder Rosa is not going to be ready till February.
Mhm.
So I don't know.
I don't know
I don't
either.
know, but I'm excited, and it's
Yeah.
exciting to be excited about the women's division because, again, there's it's always cool when that's the talk of the town because obviously that's what's under the microscope when it comes to AEW more than anything else. And so for it to have the most exciting talk, I think is good times. And I think people know, again, like I said, I feel like if it wasn't something special coming up, somebody would have shut it down a while ago. And I have talked to some people who, much like Sean has, they don't know, but they're like, if it is her, God, that's exciting. That's somebody I would want to have on the team. I don't feel like I haven't gotten anything from anybody who was like, that's not somebody I want to work with. And trust me, that happens all the time. If when there's
Yeah.
rumors of somebody signing with the company, um, there have been times where we've gotten some kind of indicator of, oh, them, I don't know, but like everybody's like, nah, she'd be good. She'd be good here. That would be exciting. As far as Mandy's concerned, Mandy is an interesting case. On the one hand, like AEW would be an interesting spot for her. Obviously, she has family in AEW with Nyla Rose, but also, I'm sorry, I've been waiting to make that joke for like a day. But on the other side of things, it's interesting, right? Because Mandy Rose was somebody signed to WWE. She was brought in. She got a main roster spot fairly quickly, and for the most part, she had some pretty solid star power. I think that she got over very quickly. People really gravitated to her. It was very clear WWE was high on her. They gave her the special entrance with the graphic that made it look like Vaseline was rubbed on your screen. And they had commentary talk her up, but she felt like she had more developing to do as a performer. She went to
I agree.
NXT and did that developing as a performer for over a year. And then they released her. So if I were looking at it from AEW's perspective, I would be looking at it as, oh, they just did the hard part for us. Like, essentially, they just developed that talent entirely for us. It's not unlike Adam Cole in a way, where like Adam Cole was the guy in NXT for well over a year, almost 2 years, and he was basically gift wrapped to AEW. It was like okay, we spent all the time getting him TV ready, getting him to be a name that matters. Here you go. And in a way, that's kind of what Mandy Rose just did. She literally just had a year-long title reign, third longest title reign in NXT history, and the I'd say one of the most important title reigns that NXT's had. You could almost say ever, just based on the fact that the others all occurred while not on TV. Those were all on the network. I mean, a part of Shayna's was on TV, but most of that occurred on WWE Network. But this is the only long title reign NXT's had like that on WWE television that was on USA Network the entire time. So she got to grow in front of the audience, get known in front of the audience. And now she's been kind of gift wrapped elsewhere. So, like, in a way, I can see why that would be of interest to Tony Khan. I don't know. What do you think in that regard?
No, I definitely agree. And I really like the Adam Cole comparison because I think it's apt because Mandy Rose in NXT became so much more complete of a wrestler in the ring and as, a Mandy Rose character. I think she really found herself in NXT. And I thought before, the news of her release came out, I thought she was getting called up because her send off, everything. And I think the Mandy Rose character, if she does stay in wrestling and she does choose to not go back to WWE to go to AEW, it's so different from anything in AEW. Like, of course, there's beautiful women in AEW, of course, but there's no one who has that like Mandy Rose character, that that style of her gear, her promos, everything about her. So I think it'd be really interesting, and I think she would fit in well. I think the AEW women's division is on an upswing, and I think they've really proven that they have a talent for training women's wrestlers. There's lots of people getting involved with that. They Madison Rayne, they recently hired her. So I don't know. I think she'd do really well. I don't think she's necessarily in ring the best wrestler or would be the best wrestler in AEW. But there's something special about her. And like I said, I feel like she really found herself. So if I'm Tony Khan and I can get, Mandy Rose at, pay her, her salary, pay her what she's worth, and work out something where she can continue her fan site, her website, and maybe do some other stuff, some modeling, whatever. I think it's a good investment. I think fans would be into it.
I agree. And like I said, I'm not necessarily one of the people like fully clamoring for Mandy Rose, and I say that because I don't really watch NXT, so I can't necessarily say that, but I can say that it would be, it is one of those gets that even without watching NXT, I can say that it's worth the look at the very least.
No, I
That's all.
definitely agree.
So anyway, also in the and I want to remind people, don't forget to send us those super chats. Give us those super chats. Send us those super chats. Donate a super chat and humper chats. Let us know what you've got to say around anything happening in the wrestling world, but specifically around things all AEW news. We got Caden, who said the two besties on the same stream. Amazing, of course. Orion Ben 666 says, all I'm going to say is Will called it on Grapsity when Athena and Tegan spoke up. Back to Dad. I mean, but I knew Andretti was special with the Lance Storm trunks. Again, that was just a really, really cool moment. And Orion Ben 666 says, "I know Will stoked with the Wrestle Kingdom fan news yesterday. Of course, like this is. I'm continuing to feel this whole sense of FOMO. I've talked about this before about how I was supposed to go to Wrestle Kingdom 2021. That obviously couldn't happen because of restrictions and things along those
Mhm.
lines. And so I obviously didn't plan to go to Wrestle Kingdom 2022 because those same restrictions were happening. And I wasn't sure about Wrestle Kingdom 2023. And so I didn't make any plans to do so. But now all of these things keep getting announced for it that are like, why didn't I make the plan? I'm like, Kenny's return to New Japan? Are you kidding me? I should be there for that. And I'm not going to be there for that. And just thinking about, but I thought, you know what? Well, are fans even going to get to cheer anyway? Like, you know, I tend to treat wrestling like a friggin' party when I'm there.
Oh, yeah.
Fans get to cheer. And so I'm just feeling like I am missing out on so much being a part of Wrestle Kingdom, and I will be watching it at 3 a.m. But nonetheless, I again just. But on the other hand, as Brian Alvarez talked about, what's more noteworthy is who's not on the Wrestle Kingdom card, because giving up Kenny and FTR on a Wednesday probably came with some concessions, or what some people are thinking. And so some are wondering who New Japan gave up in exchange for them, and looking at who's not on the card. For example, Tanahashi's not on the card. And that could be something. Or wait, Tanahashi is on the card, isn't he? Tanahashi is on the card.
Did he get booked in like a multi-man tag or something?
Yeah, he's in a multi-man tag, so he is on the card. So who wasn't on the card specifically? I don't know. Because, yeah, I just remember that got announced this morning. So either way, there's a question, though, of who's not on the card. And based on who's not on the card, some are wondering if they're sending anybody in the direction of AEW to maybe give. Because, of course, the reason this is important is because it's the big January 4th Dynamite in Seattle. It's the first time in Seattle. That show is, of course, going to feature or center around Bryan Danielson, right? Like, that's his hometown. This is the first show that they've done in Seattle, and you really have to showcase Bryan Danielson and Darby Allin. Like, those are the guys you would want to showcase on that show. What kind of opponents would you give him, though? Like, you sent Kenny off. You sent FTR off. Oh. What would you do?
Shingo, maybe? If Shingo's not booked. I mean, Aussie Open not winning Tag League, that's interesting to me. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the Young Bucks are traveling with Kenny to this big match, because that's like a New Japan thing that they do. Right. But Aussie Open,
I feel like they have to be in Kenny's corner for this match. I feel like you can't. You can't.
If they don't, it's a missed opportunity. I'll say that.
Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, on a Wednesday, like, at the end of the day, like, Tony still has to keep he has to keep Dynamite going, and he has to keep his talent. I don't know.
It'll be really interesting. I would like to see, and it's not so much New Japan, but I would like to see maybe some Joshi talent, some Stardom talent. I think that would be fun. I don't necessarily know who they would send over, but I don't know. I think it'd be interesting. The New Japan roster, though, I think a lot of Forbidden Door was getting people familiar with, you know, a lot of the lower card guys. You know, of course, they had that big 4-way, but I don't know. I think you could do a whole lot with it. There's so many people, not just in New Japan, but New Japan Strong, that I think would do really well on an AEW show.
Oh, yeah.
just for fun. Like it doesn't have to be anything serious here. Like we could just book for fun. I don't know. It's a good way to start the new year, though.
I agree. And Jennifer's asking Zack Sabre Jr. is he booked? He is booked. He is on the card. So I think Wrestle Kingdom Night 2, I would bet, is Zack Sabre Jr. versus Bryan Danielson. That is my. We were supposed to get that match at Forbidden Door, and I would wager that on night 2 is when we see Bryan have the match he was after.
They have to. And it's like, all these guys, Bryan Danielson, Kenny Omega, so on, they keep dropping these little things like they're ready to slow down, maybe like pace their career more. And I'm like, you can't. We got dream matches to get through. Like, we can't slow down yet. We got to start ticking them off. And that's definitely one we need.
Oh, yeah. We got a couple of Humper chats. This one here is from Raymundo. It says, "For Dad, that's me." It says, "Super cool to see everyone calling us a great crowd. The first time AEW came here, we chanted Cody's partner to QT Marshall until he won us over, and we started chanting his name. Much love, Will." I remember that. And yeah, just that first Dallas show was interesting the first time. This was, if I remember correctly, this is the fourth time. No, the fifth. This was the fifth time that AEW's run the Curtis Colwell Center in Garland, Texas, because they ran it 2019. I remember it was December of 2019. They ran it in July of 2021. Then they also ran it again in December of 2021 because it had the last Winter is Coming. They had a Battle of the Belts there earlier this year. That was the one before Easter, because that was the one where Hangman beat Adam Cole with the barbed wire crown, and everybody got upset. And then this one, and so that's the 5 that AEW have run there. And then also, I guess, Super Card of Honor was also in that building. And then I remember that because I was there. It's the only time I've been in that arena. So that it's a very special arena as far as AEW is concerned. I believe that's one of the ones they've run the most. Not the most, because that would still be Now Arena. I think they've done 8 events at Now Arena in Chicago, which is wild to think about the fact that as I was doing some mental counting, I was like, off the top of my head, unless I'm missing one, I was like pretty sure they've run Chicago 14 times. And for a company that's only been in business 3 years, and one of those years was spent entirely in Jacksonville, they've literally run 14 events out of Chicago. And by the way, I'm not double counting because I posted that to Twitter, and I saw somebody ask me, they were like, "Well, are you counting like Dynamite Rampage, like the 2 shows in there?" I'm like, no, they've literally just run 14. Like, I'm counting standalone rampages because those are individual events. But if it's just been a Dynamite Rampage, no, I didn't count that as 2. Literally been there 14 times, Chicago. So it's been 8 in Now Arena, 2 in United Center because it was be Forbidden Door in the first dance, and then 4 from Wintrust Arena. 14 events.
I guess if it's not broke, don't fix it. The Chicago crowd loves AEW. I guess Texas loves AEW too because, looking forward into, 2023, they're running Texas venues so many times.
Yes. Now, Texas, I will say that they're fairly far apart, right? Because they're running El Paso and they're running Laredo. And those aren't necessarily close. And they're avoiding the big ones that they've run before. Like, they're not doing San Antonio again. They're doing that next week, but they're not running Houston again and all of that. Although Houston's been a really great crowd. That's the thing about these Texas crowds. AEW has done a really good job of like rewriting the narrative around certain crowds, because I know that if you talk to people from Texas who went to WWE shows for the longest time, one of the things they'd always say is, "Oh my God, Houston is always such a dead crowd." First time AEW ran Houston, they were off the charts. That's the crowd that sang Jericho's theme song without background music. Like, that in itself is an astonishing thing, and I still think one of the best crowd moments they've had. But when you think about other crowds like Corpus Christi was really bad for AEW, and they haven't been back to Corpus Christi. Like that was that show that everybody was like, all right, it's over, the dream is over, AEW is canceled. That one show in Corpus Christi with the phantom punches on Dustin, and everybody was convinced that that this is no longer working for them as a company. And but other than that, this Garland crowd was friggin' phenomenal. And
So good.
almost from the start, the show began with, first off, playing Round Ball Rock. I have to say, I'm so glad the meme came to life. As soon as they announced the Best of 7 series, of course, multiple people online started comparing it to, of course, NBA Finals, things along those lines, and making video packages that contained Round Ball Rock. Round Ball Rock is really special to a lot of people. Are you a basketball fan, Kylie?
Yes.
Perfect. So you understand the significance of Round Ball Rock as a song for those that don't. That was the NBA on NBC's song. Probably wondering, if you're on the younger side, like our friend Caden, for example, why does the network in which basketball played even matter? I'll tell you why. Because that song came about in 1990. Through the 90s, we had a star by the name of Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan's entire run with the Bulls, not entire, but the run, the portion of the run that mattered, the portion of the run that saw 6 NBA championships won, all took place during the NBA on NBC era. So the people who grew up under Michael Jordan era basketball, under Charles Barkley era basketball, early Shaq, things along those lines, all of those stars that we grew up with in the 90s, that song was the backdrop to it. So mentally, we associate that era of basketball with that song. And literally, I'm not going to play it here because I'm not going to get the channel flagged, but that song has been my ringtone since since ringtones were available on phones. It still to this day is. Anybody calls me, now granted, I mostly keep my phone on vibrate, but on the rare times it's not on vibrate, it's going to play. Anyway, that's my song. So of course, anybody who gets a chance to use that song, gonna give props to. I can't believe they secured the rights to that song.
I know.
And it's so funny because of the fact that John Tesh retained ownership of that song, so he can license it to whoever, which has always been kind of an annoying thing to me, that like when the NBA left NBC in 2002, I believe it was, anybody else could have picked it up, but they all wanted their own identity and their own songs. ABC, who's had the NBA since 2002, has still yet to come up with a song that anybody cares about. I remember they had like one year they had the Pussycat Dolls doing Right Now, and it was like, it's not gonna work. That is not the NBA. I'd say TNT has a song that's fairly special that people, it's like, as long as you have a catchy melody, people know it. But no one has been able to capture the magic of Round Ball Rock, the NBA on NBC. But it is funny that NBC doesn't own that music, because NBC, owned by Comcast, owned by NBC Universal, of course. NBC Universal also owns USA Network, the network that WWE is in bed with. So it is just kind of funny that AEW was the ones to get the rights to use Round Ball Rock for pro wrestling, when that could have been used by WWE a million times over because they have closer ties to it. I just think that's all really funny. But ultimately, that intro playing in the background of while they're going over the card for the show is great stuff.
It was so good. They had put that video on Twitter, the Dynamite like video package, and I was like, that's really cool. They licensed it for this video package, and then we turned on Dynamite, and they licensed it for the whole show.
I was good. All smiles when that was playing, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. I know there are people who don't get it and are like, why are you playing the basketball song with these guys? Because why the fuck not? Like, are you kidding me? I have to tell you, there is some joy I got out of the opening minutes of AEW Dynamite this week. That it plays the Dynamite intro, and then they start playing Round Ball Rock, and then right out of Round Ball Rock, we go into Carry On Wayward Son, and like it's just like the first 5 minutes of the show is just like recognizable music, and that is just kind of an odd thing for my brain to even compute. But I will say, the moment Carry On hit, huge pop, and I immediately knew, because like last week's crowd in Austin, Texas was very good. I'd say, somebody asked me on Twitter who I'd say the top 5 AEW crowds are, and I said in no order. I said it was Austin, Dallas, Chicago, Boston, and Philadelphia. And I was like, and really it's because they've gotten the most shows and they've been the most consistent crowd. Like obviously there's been one-offs, like Detroit was really good, LA was really good. I was there in New Orleans, Louisiana, and they were really good. But like I was going with the ones that they've been to consistently, who consistently show up for them as a crowd. But this crowd here was just off the charts great. And I feel like AEW's got to sell that more. I feel like if I were promoting AEW live events, if I were doing like the ads that say come to the shows, the piece of it I would be selling, I would make a little 30-second ad each show, running it, just reminding the fans that when you come to an AEW show, you help make the show. And like I kind of show a montage of all the times where the fans changed the course of a show, where the fans helped dictate the show, you know, as little as this week, right? Showing off Action Andretti, all of a sudden the crowd reaction him getting made the moment. Or last week, Ricky Starks, the reaction he got was making his moment. And the times where it was the crowd that made the moment, you know, if you're willing to show crying CM Punk guy, like little things like that, I would show kind of a montage of like, when you're here, you help make the show what it is. And that's, I almost sell that as like, hey, this is what sets AEW apart. That's what I would do personally if I were marketing that.
Yeah, I would too, because, you know, granted, I haven't been to a WWE show in a few years, but I did go when SmackDown was really at its peak, right before it went to Fox. It was good. It was the A show, whatever. And there's something special about AW crowds. Like, there's so much more, a lot of people are just so much more emotionally invested in everything that's happening on the show. They're so excited. And I've been at a few shows where I've sat near people where it's their first AW show, and they're so excited to be there. And as AW goes into these new markets where maybe they haven't been there before, or it's been a while, especially on the West Coast where they have barely even scratched the surface, I think they really do need to stress that this is like, fans are a big, big part of the presentation, but also like your fan experience is going to be so, you know, entertaining at an AW show just because everyone is so into it.
Yeah, well, you know, and it's funny too, because they're going to be here in Denver in 2 weeks, and there's 2 matches announced for that show already. Well, one, if it gets to that, and it will, and we'll talk about that in a second. But they're coming here to Denver, and I had talked to somebody in AEW about this, and we were talking about the ticket sales for that event, because of course it's been a big topic that AEW ticket sales for a lot of these places that they've run multiple times have been down, and that's just a fact, especially in the Northeast. But some of them are up, like Denver, which granted, Denver hasn't gotten a show since March 4th, 2020. And so, you know, right before the pandemic, I was at that show, and I believe that show did. I know I was tracking it up until the day of, and I know it was really struggling to hit like 3,000 people. And I think the Observer had reported it got somewhere around like 3,200 by the time everything was done. So it got there. But I know just now, with 2 weeks to go, it's over 3,700, and it's like vastly approaching 4,000. So like that's a big difference for a 5,000 seat venue. And they're probably going to hit it. So
yeah.
As far as that event is concerned, good for that. And Yeah, it's just it's some interesting stuff going on with events coming up. But again, this crowd here was off the charts. The moment the Elite's music hit, just that pop they got was just a reminder of how much of a difference they make. And they were into this match. And again, as I've said, as I talk about all of the other best of 7 matches in this series, I knew, like, my concern, of course, when 7 matches were announced are, how do you avoid having the same 7 matches?
Yeah.
And then I thought, if there's anybody I trust to not have the same matches, it's the Elite in Death Triangle. When I think about the fact that the Lucha Bros and the Young Bucks have had, just in AEW, 4 matches in AEW. And none of them have been the same at all.
Yeah.
They had that first match at Double or Nothing 2019. They had the second one at All Out, the ladder match. They had the third one in the cage, and then they had the fourth one on that Rampage in Ontario. None of them the same at all. And so, yeah, I trusted these guys to do something different each time. And it's interesting because I just tweeted this earlier, but one of the big critiques I saw going into this is it's just matches. It's just they just announced 7 matches. Where's the story? But the story has been in the matches themselves.
Yeah.
And not even like in a subtle, you have to be paying attention way. I feel this is the most on the nose story you could possibly be throwing out. It's literally playing out in these matches in the least subtle way possible. And you don't even entirely have to be paying attention to understand what's been going on in this storyline. But like, it's not a story that, because I think people associate story with in the ring promos, with backstage segments, things along those lines, and not necessarily the storytelling just within the in-ring action. And these matches have had it. I'm a big fan of these matches.
Me too.
The third one was cool. It wasn't as exciting as the first 2, but they decided to add an element of drama to this one, which saw Nick Jackson early on in the match get hurt in order to tell the story of this being a 3-on-2 situation. And Nick returned to the match, but that ended up being what cost them the match. What did you think of this?
I really loved this. I think a lot of people still, perpetuate this narrative that the Young Bucks can't act, that they can't tell stories, that they're just super kicks and moonsaults and all this stuff. But for a long time, until I saw Brandon Cutler spray his ankle with the cold spray, I did think that Nick Jackson was legitimately injured. And the way that Matt Jackson responded to this, like that, just look of concern, the tag me in, I believed it. And I do think it added that little bit of drama that it needed to really separate this match from the rest. And then, of course, it was this injury that ties back in the hammer and the triangle fighting over this hammer nonstop for this entire thing, and which, the stipulations then become important. And I love that this is probably going all 7. I don't see any situation where this doesn't go all 7. But I love that the Escalera de la Muerte is the last one, which is, so important for the Young Bucks because they swore they'd never do it again. And it really goes back to this NBA best of 7, Young Bucks, the basketball fans, the all or nothing energy of it. I think I'm so into this best of 7.
Well, this wouldn't be...
Washington!
Oh, you got to put yourself in the middle. It's not right.
I
Go.
I'm fixing it. There we go. I was waiting for Kylie to finish. I would not interrupt the great Kylie Fuller, who was all over the channel today. She was on Spotlight this morning. And now she's here. And I was gonna let her, especially talking about the Elite. Like I might interrupt you talking about something else, but the Elite, you'll beat the shit out of me for interrupting you talking about that. So I didn't want that.
So
smoke.
true.
How you doing?
Yeah, I was gonna say you guys just got to interact this morning, so like I was actually wondering if you were even gonna drop in.
Well, I had dad things to do earlier around 3:00 when you usually start this show, so I had to pick up the kids. So I'm here now, though. I was doing dad things during dad, and now I'm on dad. And we interviewed Dan the Dad on the Spotlight.
You did. Look how we bring it all around. Where are you? This isn't your normal spot.
It's hectic here at the Lambert household. So I've changed locations to a secret base in the household. I'm actually just in one of the kids' rooms, hiding out from all the madness. Now there's a lot going on here, so I had to find a quiet spot because other stuff has been overtaken right now.
Okay, fine. I was like, did you find a new backdrop? Are you being held captive? Is this a ransom video?
blink twice, blink 3 times if I need to escape. Yes, it's hectic around here, so I had to find a quiet place. Hopefully this is quiet enough. I don't have my usual microphone. If my audio sounds terrible, I'm using my just computer mic, so it's hectic. But I had to say hi, especially once I saw you had Kylie on. She's my favorite person. Her and Haley are my 2 favorite people on Overbooked. I'd fire everybody else just and give them the entire channel if I had the choice.
You said it.
I mean, Jeremy, you have the choice. What are you talking about? This is if anybody.
I don't know what goes on. I don't know what goes on my own channel. Will Washington? I have no idea. People are just like, I'm gonna do a show at this time. I'm like, all right, sure, go for it. That's why I tell Kylie and Haley all the time. It's like, if you want, whenever you want to do a show, just like go ahead, just give me a heads up and like. All right, you're more than welcome to do it. I don't know.
That's how this show came to be. I literally just went to Jeremy and was like, hey, I want to talk about Dynamite on the day after, and I think Dad would be a funny title. And
I said, you're Will Washington. You can do whatever the hell you want. Yes, that's what we're going to do.
And then Sean was like, why aren't you doing this on Main Fightful? And here we are.
I got to fight Sean for poaching you. And Tag Talk's getting the call up next. That's what's getting called up next, hopefully, once Overbooked. We need more main roster call-ups, and Tag Talk's the next to get the call-up.
Fingers crossed.
Well, I don't want to interrupt the Dynamite review any longer. Usually I come on the beginning, so that way I don't feel like I'm interrupting too much. But you guys are rolling, so I had to say hi. Hi, everybody. Kylie, you're the best. Thank you. Thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you for, again, always everything you do, you and Haley.
Do you feel better, by the way? Because the Avs won the other day, so
we're getting healthy. That's good. We're getting healthy. McKinnon's still out for a while. Landeskog's still out, but we're getting healthy. I feel a little bit better. Will. I'm still gonna come out there and try out for the team. I feel like I can still make it.
Yeah.
There's Haley. Haley's in the chat. Hi, Haley. All right. I'm out of here. Enjoy Dynamite. Enjoy talking about Dynamite. Hope everyone enjoyed Dynamite last night. Bye, Will Washington. Have a good weekend, Will. Bye, Kylie.
Bye.
It's Thursday. Have a good weekend. He's just not anticipating talking to me before then. Whatever. Jeremy Lambert, everybody. That's the old Jeremy Lambert. We got a couple of super chats. Roland says, could be Shibata versus Danielson on Dynamite for Seattle to keep the Wrestle Kingdom feel. That'd be cool.
I'd be into it.
There are options. Pablo Crow says, greetings, Dad. Maybe Don Callis is recruiting Takeshita to sub in for an injured Nick Jackson the next couple of weeks. That'd be cool, too. I have been wondering, where is this story going with Don Callis trying to recruit Konosuke Takeshita? I have no idea where that's going at all.
I don't either. I don't trust Don Callis, that's for sure.
Yeah. What's he up to? What is he up to?
I don't know.
Jay says, Roundball Rock reminds me of a time when my Knicks were good. I'm telling you. It takes us all back to a different basketball time. Luis says, need an elite NBA Jam minigame on Fight Forever. I know it's almost too late for that. But who knows? You know what? Had another marketing idea for AEW, by the way. God, just pay me for this.
You're
stuff.
A genius.
But I was thinking about how, and I want to know what the chat thinks should be the song. But I was thinking about the other day, it was announced that Sonic Frontier has sold 2.5 million copies, which is like one of the best-selling Sonic games in a long time. Sonic franchise is actually kind of on fire, right? It's got movies that are actually critically acclaimed. They have a show on Netflix that's actually really good, apparently, and the games are doing really well. Like, it's a good time to be a fan of Sonic the Hedgehog. But particularly, the game has sold really well, and I kind of attributed that to the marketing campaign, and specifically using "Don't Stop Me" by Queen as a song. And then I started thinking about times where video games have licensed popular earworms that have caused the game to sell a bunch. Two examples I think of are the first Gears of War. Nobody knew about that game before the Mad World ad, Gary Jules. As soon as that version of the song was on that commercial, I know people who only know that song because of Gears of War. When they even did the when they announced the remaster of Gears of War and they played Mad World, the room lost it because it was like, oh shit, it's Gears of War. That's a song that people for the longest time associated with Donnie Darko, and now it's like, no, actually it's a song we associate with Gears of War. Sold a bunch of copies. Also, Lost Odyssey was a game that was completely unknown. Nobody knew about Lost Odyssey. And it was like, oh, it's from the creator of Final Fantasy, could be pretty good. But then the advertising campaign used White Rabbit, Jefferson Airplane. And again, the game sold over 1 million copies, and I think that was a little bit of the difference. So then I started thinking, AEW Fight Forever, and I started thinking about how much Tony Khan loves licensing music. And I thought to myself, for a game that is supposed to be a throwback to wrestling games from the early 2000s, what song would you license to market the game in a way where you capture the feel of the early 2000s, but also sell to wrestling fans? So, of course, my brain instantly goes to My Way, Limp Bizkit, but I'm like, nah, too on the nose. WWE fans would hate that because they're like, you're stealing our thing. So I'm trying to think of what would be the right song. Like, there's a piece of me that's like, use Annie Up by MOP. Like, that's a good one. Like, what song from the early 2000s would you use to represent what era this game is supposed to represent that is catchy enough to stick with people and get their attention to want to buy the game? I don't know, but I think that's something they have to do. And I'm curious what the chat thinks, because I see Whoa by Black Rob. That's a good option.
Yeah.
I like that one. But either way, there's a freebie as far as ideas are concerned. I mean, Click Click Boom by Saliva, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's there are
Creed.
options. Yeah.
Not anything but Creed.
There's options. I just feel like it's got to be something catchy enough to make people, like I said, that Don't Stop Me Now commercial, I think did enough to get people's attention to make them think about wanting to buy Sonic the Hedgehog in a way where, look, man, Sonic games have not sold in what? I mean, the last game to sell 2.5 million copies in the Sonic franchise, pretty sure it came out 12 years ago. So, I don't know.
It made Sonic cool.
It did.
That's all I'm saying.
Which is weird because, like, Queen. And, like, I don't know.
People love Queen nowadays.
I know.
Jen's really into it.
People do. Yeah, that's true. I think. Oh, yeah. I forgot. Don't Stop Me Now had, like, a good TikTok run for a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's right. Sorry. This millennial here doesn't quite. Can't jive with all these damn Gen Zers. But. Let's see. We've got a super chat. Caden says, "Did they show me on TV again? Did they? I caught Caden last week for sure. And
I don't remember.
I caught Caden both during Dynamite and Rampage, but I did not catch Caden during Dynamite last week. So,
If you were Caden, I didn't see you, but I'll go back and look just for you.
yes." I didn't get to give Dynamite like that kind of second look over, so all of this is freshly this week kind of stuff, or just it's all from first watch. But again, I was like really into it on first watch. So anyway, so we talked about the Elite lost due to hammer to the leg. What does this all mean? It means that next week we get no disqualification, because the Elite are now down 3-1.
It's going
I
to be
knew they were
so.
going to do the. I knew they were going to do the
Yeah.
meme. the
They have to. They can't help themselves.
I know. Death Triangle blew a 3-1 lead. I knew they couldn't help themselves. I smiled at that. As soon as they went down 3-1, I'm like, okay, we know where this is going. But again, this is going to be exciting. I'm also really excited because I had to tell my wife yesterday. So, last event she went to with me, because I've been to a lot of events. I think by my count, been to 19 events this year in 2022. But this last time she went to an event with me was Double or Nothing this year. Anarchy in the Arena. She literally had Matt Menard's blood spilled on her foot. And when she went to the bathroom to wash up, she comes out and they're brawling right in front of her, in front of the stall. Like you can see her. There's a shot, and I forget who it is during the match itself, but there's a brawl taking place in the lobby. You see somebody open a bathroom door, and you only like catch their feet, but it literally is my wife coming out of the bathroom to like, holy shit, they're brawling out here now, and. So I said all that to say that, of course, the next event she's going to with me is Dynamite in 2 weeks. And they announced Falls Count Anywhere for this match.
She's a magnet for trouble.
I know. I'm like, oh, I hope they come our way. And we are on the floor for this show. So
someone needs to, okay, listen. Someone needs to make it happen. They need to like send your wife's picture. Be like, look, you have to go in front of this woman. You just have to. It has to be a thing now.
Of course, yeah, and that's.
I love that.
That's how it happened. And Coffee with Colin says, "Here for Kylie, nice shirt, Will. Thank you. It's Honey by Mariah." So that's, I don't know. You know it's always going to be a Mariah Carey shirt. I got a number of Mariah shirts for my birthday this year. And they're all too big because, as people know, if they follow Grapsody, I lost a bunch of weight. And so these are all extra larges, so they're all like really loose on me. But they're nice loungy shirts now. I was going to return them and get...
That's the thing now. Gen Z, they're all buying pants like 10 sizes too big. It's the thing
Which was
now.
funny because we millennials did that all back in the 90s and 2000s. And then... people older than us were like, oh, you guys in your baggy pants. And, you guys look like a genie with those pants on. And then they're like, all right, fine, we'll start wearing pants that fit. And then all of a sudden Gen Z is like, actually, it's kind of comfy. I get why you guys did this. So it all goes around and comes back around. Whatever. That said, though, yeah, I'm excited for my wife to get to experience this again. I told her this morning, I was like, yeah, remember how there was a big brawl in the crowd, anarchy in the arena? I can't guarantee you that won't happen again now with Falls Count Anywhere. But at the same time, you know what it got me thinking about? So if anybody knows the Elite, it's you.
Yeah.
The Elite have done this before. Specifically, the Young Bucks had a really, really great Falls Count Anywhere match at Daly's place with the Butcher and the Blade. And it ended with a spot that stayed in the Dynamite intro for months of them doing the moonsaults off of the tunnels onto Butcher and the Blade on the tables. They know how to pull this stuff off. It's usually Jerry Lynn who puts this stuff together. He's very good at it. I was also thinking about Jericho and Sammy versus Matt Hardy and Kenny Omega, the match that had the famous golf cart spot. They know how to put this kind of stuff together, so I know it's going to be a blast to be a part of, and I'm going to be there. That's great stuff. So this show did a really good job, I thought, building to the main event. And I say that because the main event, being the world title match, they made sure that we heard from and saw the challenger and the champion multiple times throughout the show. We had a promo from MJF where he basically got to do what a heel does, which is give a rebuttal to everything Ricky said last week, except Ricky's not there to confront it this time. That's generally how a good heel should operate. And I thought MJF was actually very good here and reminded me why he's world champion. But later in the show, we had Ricky Starks, who also had a good comeback, and he was really great and reminded us that he should be a champion, and he will be at some point. Although, Tony Khan, he has a thing that I've noticed over time, which is that Tony is not one for first-time title wins. There's very few people in AEW who have had them. And usually it's just because the opportunity called for it. But most of his guys, kind of across the board, lost their first opportunity at the title and then got it upon another one. And literally, you look at the most recent ones of Toni Storm had to have 2 shots at the belt. She had the one at Forbidden Door before she wanted it all out. You had Jamie Hayter had a shot at Thunder Rosa at Battle of the Belts, and then also won the title second time around. Hikaru Shida had a title shot before she actually won it. Nyla Rose had a title shot on the first Dynamite before she actually won it. And that's just in the women's division. In the men's side of things, MJF challenged Moxley twice. And so it's one of those, like, almost everybody has a title lost to their record before they go after it another time. And so Acclaimed is another one, as they're bringing up in the chat. Acclaimed lost. Yeah, that's a good one. That's another one. So it's one of those. It didn't surprise me, of course. It didn't surprise anybody that Ricky Starks lost. Yeah. But either way, I still feel like the crowd helped hype this one in the best way possible. Also backstage, Chris Jericho talked about losing the world title. And winning the world title. Sorry, just got a text from Denise. But I don't even remember what I was talking about. Thank you, Denise, for the distraction. What the hell was I just talking about?
Chris Jericho.
Backstage. Yeah. Jericho was backstage, and he talked about losing the ROH world title and that he was going to take his frustrations out on this jobber out there, and told Daniel Garcia that he's going to start shadowing his
Sammy. I love that.
Yeah. So we got a lot of good stuff out of that. A lot of stuff kind of cooked out of this. Like, one, Jericho also name dropped Ricky Starks, and immediately my brain went, sorry, it's a group text with Sean and Denise, so they're literally talking to each other, just like distracting me. So sorry, I have a 3-way group text with those two. Thank you, Sean and Denise. In case you're wondering why my phone keeps vibrating. Laughing emoji from Denise Salcedo. Hell, see, you could see these guys anyway. So again, I'm interested here. Ricky Starks, Chris Jericho has been kind of a gatekeeper in terms of getting people to the next step of their careers, whoever it is. And granted, some people hate that. Some people are like, Chris Jericho holds on to people for too long. Like, he feuded with MJF for a year. The Eddie Kingston feud basically became the BCC feud, and in that sense, that's still going. And that started last year, or late last year. And here now we're here with these guys, and some people are thinking that if he did drop Ricky Starks intentionally here, how long will that last? Look, I think Chris Jericho is the right guy for Ricky Starks. I think Chris Jericho has been tremendous in the ring this year. If they can do a solid program that ends at Revolution, I'm in.
Yeah.
I do not still want to be talking about Ricky Starks and Chris Jericho at All Out. That's all I ask, please.
I don't know. I think I'm kind of into it, and I've always been someone who's been critical of Jericho because a lot of the stuff he's done has gone on long, and I'm not really a fan of that because you need distance. But Jericho, after losing this match on Dynamite to the Jobber, uh, there's kind of an edge to him now. Like he's mad about it, and he's like, he's having his own individual story that isn't just I'm the champion, I'm the best, buy my champagne. Now he's like, there's something different about him, and something about Ricky being this kid with a chip on his shoulder. I think the MJF feud made him. I think that promo is an all-timer. I think we'll be talking about that Ricky Starks promo 5 years from now is like the moment the world champ became the world champ. Like that was incredible to me. I don't know. There's something like different about the dynamic this time for Ricky and this Chris Jericho versus MJF and Jericho or Eddie and Jericho or even Mox and Jericho way back in AEW. So there's something different here. Jericho's so different. And I think Ricky's different. And I'm kind of into it. There's like sort of a violent element to it that they're both just so mad that they didn't get what they wanted.
And I feel like this is a program Ricky needs. Ricky hasn't necessarily had that kind of headliner level program. And I think he's ready for that. And that's what I would like to see him do next. And that's it. That's what I want to see. So I think Jericho's the right person for him. I hope that's where they go. Before we got to that, though, Brian Cage took on Jungle Boy. Not a whole lot to this match. Brian Cage is really on a really great run. Sean's been big up on Brian Cage. I am too. I think that Brian wasn't necessarily bad during the pandemic run, but it just felt like as soon as they went on the road, it was just in a way he was just in a place of there were so many other guys ahead of him that nobody really cared about Brian Cage. And so he sat on the sidelines for a while. But I feel like he's starting to figure that out again, and he's starting to be where he needs to be. Brian Cage and Jungle Boy went one-on-one. I think there was some momentum that needed to be kept up from Jungle Boy after beating Luchasaurus that hasn't been. So I was happy to see him back in the ring there. And Jungle Boy won.
I thought it was a good match. I really enjoyed it. And I think, like you said, Brian Cage is really finding himself again. I think he really got overshadowed by Wardlow. Wardlow, fans were getting behind Wardlow at the same time. They were kind of forgetting about Brian Cage. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. The faction he's in, I think it really suits him. I think he's wrestling better than he did before. I don't know if he's been training. I don't know if he's just been holding himself back. I don't know what it is. But I really liked this, and I really like Jungle Boy. I like Jungle Boy as a singles wrestler.
I think this is just kind of a first thing for Brian Cage. I think that the thing that we didn't kind of get from Brian Cage before is that Brian Cage, granted he's worked Lucha shows and things along those lines, and of course he was a part of Lucha Underground, he's a part of Impact, all of that. Brian Cage, this is kind of his first exposure to TV crowds in a way, where he's getting to work live TV crowds that he hasn't gotten to work necessarily before. And, he signed with AEW. He signed before the pandemic, but he didn't get to debut until after the pandemic began. So he was in Daly's place for so long. And I think he was a little more in his element there. But I think when they went on the road, he hadn't quite gotten where he is now. And now that they've been on the road for a year and a half and he's back on the road with them, I think we are seeing a little bit more of Brian Cage, of what the potential he kind of always had, and just working more for the crowd now that he has so much of it to work with. Matthew Makovsky says, Will, do you have a percentage for Sasha at Wrestle Kingdom 17? 95. And the 5% is the plane is stalled or something. But I think that she's going to be there. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
And I'm fully behind Dave's report. I fully believe it that it was not booked through WWE, that this is her being booked independently. The fact that Sasha keeps counting down to something come January 1st. And I think come January 1st, the thing we see is her removed from the WWE roster page. And keep refreshing that page, folks, because that's what I think the countdown's about to be.
Yeah, I think New Japan would have denied it by now if there wasn't anything to it.
Yeah.
So
That's my percentage on that. Thank you, Matthew, and thank you for bringing it to my attention because I didn't see that. I had missed that. See, and Pablo says, "Will Daniel Garcia leave JAS Part 2?" I think Sammy Guevara is a good catalyst for that. That's what I'll say. After this match is over, by the way, Jungle Boy calls out Big Bill. And look, I like the name, all right? As a fellow William, I will say that obviously there's a lot of nicknames we can go with. The problem with using W as a shorter name is that W is a 3-syllable letter and therefore never shortens anything. You are never shorter if people try to say my initials, for example, WW. 6 syllables, right? Whereas Will Washington, 4. It takes you less time to just say my name than it would to say my initials. And so, like, when you're dealing with W. Morrissey, again, 6 syllables. It's not a name that works for anybody.
But Big Bill?
Yeah, I like Big Bill. No, are you kidding me? I'm all in on Big Bill. I love it. I love it. Look, he was Big Cass before. He's a big dude. And, like, of course, there's a piece of me that's just hoping that if he gets over enough in this role that I tweeted this, but I think about the Bill Nye the Science Guy intro. I just want the crowd chanting, Bill, 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 Bill. And I want the theme song, whatever his theme song, to have like a space in it for the crowd to chant, Bill, Bill, Bill. Nah, I am all in on Big Bill as a name. This shit is cool. And
I'll warm up to it, I guess. It gives me cowboy vibes, though, like Buffalo Bill. Like,
look, again, as somebody named William. William is a very versatile name, right? There are multiple nicknames for William. There's Will. There's Willie. There's Bill. There's Billy. There's Liam. People forget that Liam was originally short for William. It's the last 4 letters of William. Yeah, it's the last 4 letters of William. But eventually, it's been adopted as its own name. But Liam is originally the last 4 letters of William. And
I didn't know that.
So it's a very versatile name. Lots you can do with it. So I recognize various people adopt various different names for it. Nah, Big Bill's dope. I don't give a shit. So that's whatever. But he, of course, gets so out come Lee Moriarty and Big Bill to jump Jungle Boy, and he is saved by an unlikely ally, Hook. Are you kidding me? And the crowd loses it for Hook's music.
Yes.
And the crowd goes nuts when they shake hands. And I looked at the two of them and went, how did I never put this together? How did I never think of Hook and Jungle Boy, or as they have now been dubbed by the internet, the Jungle Hook? And look, these are like 2 good-looking young dudes who have kind of that same boyish appeal. How? I never even imagined these 2 together, but as soon as they shook hands, I thought, damn, this is right. This is it.
I'm so into it. I never thought of it either. I'm still stuck on Hookhausen. Mm-hmm. I've been waiting for Hookhausen to return, but this is so interesting. I want more Hook, and I'm glad that he's, being put in with Jungle Boy. He's probably going to be on TV more. He's going to be doing more. I'm excited for Hook, and I think 2023 for Hook and for Jungle Boy is going to be super interesting. They wrestle so differently too. So yes. I'm really cool to see if they do, a tag team thing, what they can put together for, double team offense. I'm so into it. I can't wait to buy a shirt.
They're talking about in their chat. Look, I'm all for wrestlers being sponsored by things. As Denise mentioned the other week, that might have been on, for those of you who watch us on After the Week, youtube.com/Denise Salcedo. We talked about how never had Jimmy John's before seeing it on Brock Lesnar's tights. So what I'm saying here is that sponsoring wrestlers is a very good thing. And if Head and Shoulders was in for some kind of wrestler deal, those are the 2 guys to go for.
That's true. They got great hair. Both of them. It's crazy. But Jungle Boy, it's just good genes. His whole family, they all have great hair. He's just blessed.
So I've been at a million events, of course, where Jungle Boy's family is also there. And I can always tell because I look down and I'm like, oh, there they are. Mom and sister right there. There's the hair. I see it. As soon as they make their way down. So great stuff. So, yeah, I again, the crowd made this a moment. It was very cool. There was a quick squash. House of Black destroyed the factory.
Love House of Black.
So does the crowd.
I'm so glad House of Black is back. And I love Julia Hart having a bigger role in the House of Black. She's the one who did the mist on Dynamite. I love that. I love them getting squash matches. I don't want to see them do like 30 squash matches waiting presumably for the trios titles to go for the trios titles.
Well, the good news is we only have a couple more. Like, they could do 2 more of these, and I think it's fine. Maybe even 3, because we only have 3 more trios matches left. I think they can get by doing this until they finally show up and kick the heads off of whoever is. Like, I think a really cool spot to me, if I were booking this, free ideas, would be some kind of elaborate spot where obviously a whole bunch of shenanigans have happened in the ladder match, and at the end of it, we have the final spot sees 3 ladders set up side by side, and the 3 members of the Elite retrieve the 3 belts. The 3 of them are standing at the top of the ladders. All is good. Then lights go out. They come back on, and opposing them on the other sides of the ladders are all 3 members of House of Black who just like knock them off the ladders and then stand above them. Show goes off the air. That's how I would do that shit in LA.
Yeah, that's a great visual. I would love that.
Like, yeah, that would be my visual. That's what I would go for. And then spend the next couple of months doing singles matches between all combinations, because honestly, I just want to see Buddy Matthews versus Nick Jackson. I know everybody else is like, nah, we want Buddy Matthews versus Kenny, and we want Malachi versus Kenny. Nah, give me Nick Jackson and Buddy Matthews. That's the one.
Everybody forgets Nick Jackson versus Ray Phoenix. That was like a match of the year contender. He's a good singles wrestler. He's underrated.
Honestly, you know, there is a weird thing though. Has Matt Jackson had an AEW singles match? I don't think he has, right?
I don't think he has. Well, I mean, if you count the Nick Jackson versus Matt Jackson on BTE.
I don't. But that's a BTE canon that's technically... Yeah, I don't think he has either. He's had singles performances because they had the... what was it? The tag team battle royal where Nick got eliminated. Yeah. Nick was eliminated early and Matt had to win it on his own, and he did. But what match did Matt Jackson have? Because everybody's saying he had one. What was the one?
Oh, I
know Nick's had a few. Nick faced Bryan Danielson, and Nick's faced Ray Phoenix. I don't recall Matt versus Ray Phoenix.
Me either.
But maybe I'm wrong. Let's see. Matt Jackson singles matches. I'm just going to look up Matt Jackson. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat, but I don't recall a singles match. A whole bunch of Young Bucks stuff. Did I say Nick? Because obviously I wouldn't admit Nick, because I know Nick's had multiple. But let me see. Ray Phoenix beat Matt Jackson?
On a Pandemic Dynamite.
Pandemic Dynamite, okay.
Yeah.
You are correct. That was March 10th. Okay. Memory failed me once. March 10th, 2021. That's the one. I've been trying to recall because, Nick has, everybody always calls him singles match Nick, but Matt hadn't had, that's the one, is March 10th against Ray Phoenix. Go figure, Ray Phoenix has had both of the singles matches with the Young Bucks. Nick hasn't. Yeah, all right, March 10th. There you go. Thank you. That's why I asked. And that was a live one, too. Because back then, every other Dynamite was live.
Feels like a lifetime ago.
I know, right? Like, I will say, all of the pandemic era stuff blends to me all together
Oh, yeah.
because part of how I'm able to remember certain things is that I can associate it with a city. Like, you tell me what's like, if I can think of the city it took place in, I'm like, okay, I can always associate that with the type of crowd they had and certain things the crowd did. And if I can do that, then I can usually remember what took place on that show. But Jacksonville all runs together. And so that's just all one big blur. So I can like pull little things out of the air from Jacksonville, but God, all of it just, it all blends together.
All I remember is Austin Gunn screaming all the time. That's all I remember from the pandemic era.
Oh,
It's just
yeah.
the Gunn boys.
Yep. That was, yeah, he yes. And hey, that Ray Phoenix versus Matt Jackson match got 4.5 stars from Meltzer. That, okay, I might have to like try and refine that. Because that sounds like, oh, I'm remembering this Dynamite. And I remember why I don't remember this show. Okay. Now it's starting to click with me. Okay. I was at a friend's house during this one. So, like, I never saw that match live when it aired. And, like, I tried to put this show on, like, in the background. But obviously, people around me were like, hey, you're not trying to watch wrestling right now. So, okay. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. And I remember it because it was the Wednesday after that year's Revolution.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's that. Okay. Anyway. So the big thing of the night, or one of the big things that people weren't expecting to be a big thing, was Chris Jericho, Action Andretti. Andretti already in the ring. We were thinking, okay, here we go. And Caden says, I was in person for that show in Jacksonville and don't remember. I mean, again, the Jacksonville shows, it's all one blur. I only got to go to one Jacksonville show. 2, technically, because I went to Double or Nothing. But that held all the fans back. But as far as like the spacing shows, I went to 1. But yeah, it was Jericho and Andretti. And the crowd giving it to Jericho initially, they were chanting, "You tapped out" at him because he did tap out at the to the big swing.
Mm-hmm.
But then they start chanting, "Let's go, Jobber," and
he went.
And well, the funny thing was, I think the crowd was anticipating maybe like in an ironic way giving it to Chris Jericho, but all of a sudden it turned into something else completely. When Jericho hit the code breaker right before the commercial break, and you kind of got this feeling of, okay, fun's over. And then he kicked out, and the crowd suddenly went like, something's happening here. And they were suddenly way into this. And for the next couple minutes, they came back from break. Jericho gave Andretti a lot. And then he gave him a win.
I was so surprised. I thought it was going to be a situation like it's a tryout. He's going to get a lot of offense, and then Jericho's just going to, put him down, whatever. But he ducked the Judas effect, and then I was like, oh, he's winning. This kid is going to win this on Dynamite against Chris Jericho.
When he hit that running shooting star, I thought, okay, Jericho's going to kick out. And it was 1, 2, 3. And I'm like, holy shit, what happened here?
So crazy.
Yeah, I lost it. This was a moment that I don't even think he probably anticipated getting, because I think, obviously it's wrestling. You knew you're going to win. That's all fine and good. But the part I don't think anybody anticipated here was how into it the crowd was going to be. And because the crowd was so into it, it made this a real moment. And that's the difference that a crowd makes here. And I was just in love with this, and this was so great.
The pop he got, that was loud. The crowd was so surprised. They were so into it. And like he's gonna remember that pop for the rest of his career because that was insane. I couldn't even remember his name. I mean, I probably have seen him wrestle before, but I couldn't remember his name, and I'm like, this kid, he has something really special, and I was so excited by it, and I've been checking his Twitter followers, just going up by thousands like every hour. This AEW, this was a big risk, and they really trusted the crowd. And the crowd really pulled through for that. Thank God. And Jericho really putting over the jobber.
Yes.
This could have gone south real fast, but it's like an all-time moment.
Absolutely. And Jericho finding ways, because you could tell how much he secretly, you could see a slight smirk on his face every time the crowd does the Ocho thing. And him finding ways to work it into matches now, whether it's the crowd, whether it's making sure we have a countdown spot in the match, a count out, all of that. And yeah, this was good for him. This was a really cool moment. He got his All Elite graphic afterward, and
I hope they do something cool with him. Like you don't even have to put him into something major. Just get him on TV and keep him on TV. Like let fans get to know him. And they have so many young stars who they're just signing. Like Top Flight is just now back because Darius has been injured and everything. And I want to see more Top Flight. I want to see more Private Party. I want to see all these young guys. So I'm super excited about it.
There was a segment that saw the Acclaimed, the AEW World Tag Team Champions, with their brand new shiny belts, by the way. Shout out Ron Edwardson, who does those belts. They debuted those last week because the old belts had been over 2 years old. Usually you want to refresh those a lot more. The world title has been refreshed a bunch. Actually, the slight note, the world title at one point earlier this year, they were just using one of the Shop AEW replicas for a while they had the belt being retooled and fixed up. Even the women's title, they're already on the second iteration of the current women's title. The one Britt had was a different belt, but those tag belts, they've had those since FTR won them. And those belts have been passed around. Those were beaten to shit. And they finally got brand new shiny belts. They look great. But the Acclaimed, partway through Max Caster's rap, get jumped by Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, Satnam Singh. Crowd does not like this, but they're not supposed to. So they got heat. And Max Caster tweeted today that he's got a rap prepared for Jeff. I'm excited.
It better be good.
I mean, this is whatever.
Yeah.
I'm hoping this is just like a stopgap feud for the Acclaimed. Move on to something bigger and better. Don't know.
I hope it's done fast. I just don't. The FTR match was so good, and I think the Acclaimed have kind of moved beyond this Jeff Jarrett group, this random, mishmash of wrestlers. I am excited to see Jeff Jarrett get publicly embarrassed, though. I will say that. So I hope it's over very fast and we can move on and, the Acclaimed versus literally anybody else.
You know what, though? I kind of want to see the Acclaimed lose the belts to, hear me out here, it's the ultimate payoff to everything. The Ass Boys. I think if those two have a good performance against FTR and beat them, and I kind of think they will, I wouldn't mind them kind of getting one over on their dad, who is no longer in their corner, kind of thing. Because then you can go back and revisit the FTR stuff and have FTR beat them for the belts. Like that, I feel like there's ways to get there. But I'm sorry. I know the chat's like, no, Will, no. Look, guys.
That is revolting.
They're a good team. They are. Like, I don't know what else to say, but I think that I actually believe Colton and Austin are actually good as a team. They have come through as wrestlers.
They've been working really hard. I'll give them that. Like, they've been training a lot to get better. Um, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they're ready, but at the same time, I didn't think the Acclaims were ready, and they clearly were.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think I would mind it as long as the next step, that payoff is there.
I was like, the chat really hates this.
They really hate it. In my mind, I'm thinking like Butcher and the Blade, like this, rough and tumble, just like mean, dark team against like the bright and bubbly Acclaim. That would be fun. But I don't think there's a single gun club fan in this chat. I think
like at least some people are willing to say, look. The fact is, they actually are good performers in the ring. I just think they are. I think there is a hateable charisma about them. And I think you guys are somewhat displaying it in a way. I know that you'll probably be saying, no, I don't like them because they suck. It's not heat. I hate them because they suck. But like the thing is, I think they do have good douchebag heat. And Caden says, I'm sorry, Will, they stink. Not a fan. I don't know. I think, and the thing is, a lot of other wrestlers do too. A lot of guys who work with them feel like these guys have something about them. A lot of guys feel it. FTR really likes them as performers.
Yeah.
And yes, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know.
You put that out there, and now you're going to be the gun club guy.
I'm not a gun club guy. I'm just saying that I think there might be something there, but I don't know. Anyway, also on the show, we saw Ruby Soho take on Ty Mello. I thought this would be the end of this, because this match was really just centered around Ruby getting her revenge on Ty for breaking her face. And that was a lot of the match. Ty trying to get away from Ruby, Ruby kicking her ass, Ruby planting her on the and Ty going for the face again. That was a lot of what we saw in this match. And but ultimately, even when Ruby went for and hit No Future on Ty, they really emphasized that she planted her face on the mat as the ultimate revenge. What did you think of the match?
I thought the match was okay. I think Ruby Soho is a great talent. And I do like the AEW, when someone gets injured, they come back and they get their revenge. They did it with Hangman. I just don't think, and maybe this is just the way I watch wrestling, I don't know. I just don't think Ruby Soho and Ty Mello mesh well in the ring. I think there's a lot of moments where it's like there's miscommunications, and it's just kind of like it's a little rough around the edges. And I've seen Ty Mello be a great wrestler, and I've seen Ruby Soho be a great wrestler. So I don't know what the issue there is. I don't think this feud needs to continue. I would like to see Ruby Soho do something better, maybe something a little more personal to her, a little more entertaining. But then again, I also think Ty Mello and Anna Jay, they need something, because I feel like they're getting lost in the Jericho shuffle.
Oh yeah,
the way that Santana and Ortiz did. So I'd like to see them do something else. But this match, it was okay. Like, I don't think it was bad. I think it was good. I would have liked to have a different match here, though, if I'm being honest. I think the women's division, this like one match, a Dynamite, just some promos to continue feuds that we're going to get a match for in a few weeks. I think we're a little past that, but I don't know. What do I know? Maybe there's some cool story planned with Ruby Soho and Ty Mello, and I'm going to be.
Well, they seem to transitioned it to Anna Jay and Ruby Soho,
Yeah.
so we'll see, I guess, what's happening there. The odd thing is, Johnny T, I disagree with that in the chat. I actually think that the idea that the women's division is weak, I disagree with that entirely. I think that for the first time, there's multiple things happening throughout the division that involve multiple people. It would be great to have it play out in a way where I agree, where more of it gets displayed per show. Because like when you look at it, there's a program happening right now between Ruby Soho and now I guess Ty J is still the team. You also have Athena has been doing everything she's been doing to build up to her winning the Ring of Honor Women's World Championship. But that's all been playing out on AEW programming and on AEW TV at that. You also have Jade Cargill wasn't even on the show at all this week, but she was last week, and she clearly has something brewing with
Bow Wow.
Well, Bow Wow, but also for people who didn't catch it, she raised the belt up, and Red Velvet kind of gave a glance over at it like she's kind of sick of her shit. So there's that going as well. And then, and Chi-Town Spurs mentioned this is leading to a street fight with Ty J versus Ruby and Willow. I can see that also. Yeah. Speaking of which, up on FightfulSelect.com for Tier 2 subscribers at the moment. But I, as well as my co-host from Grapsity, Righteous Reg and Philip Lindsay, had an interview with Willow Nightingale. We just had her on the show this week. It's already up for Tier 2 subscribers. It'll be up tomorrow for everybody else. Some cool stuff in that interview. I would say it's a infectious interview. She has such a great energy, and even talking about like the down times that she's had, it's just like, wow, this is just great. And so either way, I can absolutely see that happening. And then what else is going on in the division? Then there's also, you have Shida challenging for the women's title, but then also in the background, you've got Saraya, who has a partner on the way for Britt Baker. I'd say right now, when I look at the women's division, there's more happening in the women's division across the board. It's not just title programs right now. There's just stuff happening in the division. There's more happening in it than there's ever been in AEW's history. And that's what we've all wanted to see. And so I disagree with the statement that it's weak. I think, do we want to see more? Of course we want to see more. But to me right now, it's not even the weakest division on TV right now. That I know might be a harsh statement to some, but that's somewhat how I see it. Ryan says, big issue is there aren't women in face stables for them to feud, which is the IC and JS specialty. I think it's only Statlander who is in all of AEW. I mean, I think at some point you probably could start to build a babyface women's faction that hasn't been done in AEW before. And again, the other thing too is we're also talking about a lot of rumors. If Sasha shows up and you have all of that happening, holy shit. That's a division. That's a really, really solid division that you could start to build some stuff with. And again, I like that it's a lot of it is happening without a title nearby. That's good stuff, and that's stuff we've wanted to see.
Yeah, and the promos and the video packages being on Dynamite and not like a side thing on Rampage or on Dark or Dark Elevation, that shows to me that now there's confidence in the women's division, and I think fans are confident in it. I think people backstage in AEW are confident in it. I think it's undeniable that the women worked really hard to get here. So I don't think it's weak at all. And I love to see talent like Sky Blue really, punching hard and going after Britt Baker and trying to work her way up in the division instead of just sitting there on Dark and Dark Elevation and doing all these things, which are great. But I don't know. I'd like to see movement there. And I like that that's on Dynamite.
Agreed. Finally, in the main event, AEW World Title on the line. Ricky Starks one-on-one with the AEW World Champion. Still feels weird even saying that. Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF. But the belt looks right on him. I'll say that. It looks right. So who am I to say one way or the other? It's weird because all the photoshops over the years that have put the belt on him, I'm like, I don't know. And then you finally see it. Oh, that's true. I'll talk about that first. Thank you, chat. We also had a backstage promo. It's really good. Hangman Adam Page was asked about basically being cleared. Now, granted, there's a little piece of me that's like, well, Hangman, if you weren't clear, could you fly into TV? I don't know. But I mean, in a way where they're saying now, we know he's had brawls on TV. He's clear. They wouldn't allow that. But as far as the story they're telling, great stuff. He talks about how he came to, and he was asked all these questions, and he was able to answer them just fine. And then he said he looked down at his phone, which had a whole bunch of missed texts, and they said, cute kid, what's his name? And for an hour, he couldn't remember his son's name. That was a deep cut. That was like a stab in the heart. I felt that. And he talked about that being hell, and he's been to hell. And if Jon Moxley wants to take him back to that hell, he's taking him with him. And I thought, damn. I posted a trivia question earlier today. I put up a picture of 4 wrestlers, and I said, what do these 4 have in common? Got a whole bunch of answers, but the answer to that question, folks, is that those are the 4 people in AEW who have pinned Jon Moxley, the only 4. The reason I came up with that question is because I think Hangman's about to be the 5th.
I think so.
I think he's going to beat Jon Moxley. I think he's set up in a way where there's no title on the line. Like, Moxley's been champion for a lot of his run in AEW, so I think that in a lot of ways he feels, he was protected. But I think now with no title in place and Hangman needing to get a big victory like that, because I think Hangman was going to beat Jon Moxley earlier this year when Moxley was supposed to win that number 1 contenders tournament before he had to go into rehab. So Hangman would have eventually gotten a victory over Moxley. I think he's going to beat him. I think he's going to walk away with the victory.
I think they're being so smart with this babyface versus babyface feud because, Jon Moxley, all the time people say he's the heart of AEW, which is true in a lot of ways. I think if there's no Jon Moxley, I don't know what AEW looks like today.
Right.
But they're really playing into like the humanity of Hangman to bring him up to that level. Like, this is the sympathetic guy. This is someone fans have watched struggle through the worst times in his life, the anxious millennial cowboy thing. And I think there's just so much story here that it's almost like you don't want to cheer for someone because then you're not going to be able to cheer for the other guy. So it's such an emotional feud. And this is something that AEW does really well, especially when it comes to Hangman, is like getting fans to just feel for him, and want to comfort him and want him to see him in all the ways.
This wasn't even intentional, right? Like, this isn't one of those things where, let's plan for Hangman to have a concussion and all that. No, but he worked around it so well and worked it into the story so well. This was great
so good
shit. Really a big fan. Now let's talk about the main event. Ricky Starks versus MJF. This was good.
Yeah.
Not much more to say about it. It was a good match. The action was good. The crowd was into it. The crowd was behind Ricky Starks. MJF knows how to get heat. He knows how to work. I thought that this was a great first showcase for the two of them. And a great first, true main event for Ricky Starks. Challenging for the title, having believable comebacks, the way he landed that spear on MJF, but couldn't get to the pin in time. That was all great main event level stuff. MJF, of course, won with the low blow. And he cheated. What did you think of the match?
I liked it. There were some moments that were, a little clunky, I guess.
There were some clunky moments,
which is to be expected. Like, it's a big match. There's a lot of hype. I can excuse that. I thought it was a good match. I like Ricky being so close, but not quite there, because he's exactly the type of guy who's going to take that so personally. And I'm excited to see where he goes with it. MJF cheating, of course, he's MJF. He's going to cheat. It just makes it so much more better when someone beats him and he doesn't get the opportunity to cheat. I really liked this for Ricky, this whole program with MJF, the promos, the videos. This has done more for Ricky than anything he's done, I think. I'm excited to see where he goes, and I'm excited for MJF. Danielson, I don't know how they're going to stretch that to Revolution. I don't know.
Actually, you know what? I got excited about this. So yeah, after the match was over, Bryan Danielson makes his way out, chases down MJF. MJF is in the crowd holding the title. Bryan is standing in the ring. He makes sure to give Ricky Starks his props. They play Ricky Starks music to go off. Do you remember Revolution 2020?
Yes.
Main event, Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley. Do you remember when that feud got started? The first time the two of them had a confrontation.
The Double or Nothing, the first Double or Nothing, when Moxley debuted.
Okay, let's narrow this down. Specifically, when Moxley decided it was time to go after the title.
Yeah, it was the end of 2019 because he came out of the Omega thing, wasn't it?
Right. The specific night it was the Thanksgiving Dynamite in Chicago after Jericho beat Scorpio Sky. As Jericho was celebrating, Moxley's music hits and he stares down with Jericho from the crowd. That went on from November till literally Revolution happened. And so I believe they can do this. I believe the time exists for them to do it. This is still less time than that one because this one's only getting started in December. So they've done it before. Also last year, CM Punk and MJF started the week after Full Gear last year and went all the way to Revolution. And they kept it going that entire time. So I do think that these two can, as long as they have a compelling program behind them, they can do something with this. And I think they should.
That's true. I think MJF running from Danielson and doing everything he can to avoid it, I think that would be really entertaining. I think it would be really good TV. And now that you bring that up, okay, they can stretch it to Revolution. It's just March. And like January is basically, that's AEW.
It's right around the corner.
And trading back and forth. That's basically a write-off of a month. We don't even need to count that. So basically it's just February. So they could do it.
They can pull it off. And it's the first week of March. Yeah, they can pull this off. So I'm in on this. And then, we have the other thing that was mentioned, which people wouldn't stop filling up my mentions with this week, was Swerve had a promo. And one of the lines in the promo was he said, "I have no friends or family in this business." And people are like, "Ooh, tough shot." Guys, I'm not in the business. What are you talking about? That's not what that meant. That is, at best, wrestling business adjacent. But come on. Now, of course, Swerve's got some people to debut next week. Or person. Or who knows what it's going to be. Somebody is in his corner. Who is it? I should have to wait till next Wednesday to find out.
Yeah.
But he said next week. So, it's that time of the show, folks. Let's talk about some ratings. This week's show did very well. 950,000 on the total viewership, so back up. And a 0.33 rating, which is that's good enough for number 3 on cable. That came right behind 2 NBA games. I did watch one of those NBA games. And let's see. So that's up 13% in total viewership from last week and 13% from in 18 to 49. It's a good rating.
That is really good. I'm surprised. Well, I guess maybe I shouldn't be surprised because it's the middle of December. What else are people doing? But I wonder, there's something special about Winter is Coming that people really like. And I don't know what it is. Because for me, it's like, okay, it's a special. I don't know.
People really it's done really well for them. And the show did good. It's pretty much up in every single metric. Particularly in 18 to 34, it actually matched Raw this week. But it's just a good number for them all around. So everything's up for this show. And I feel like that is a good indicator for Ricky Starks and MJF to me.
Yes.
I think one
agree.
that should kind of dead the narrative that the trios was killing things. I think that the trio stuff was consistent with the way a lot of main events were playing out. As a matter of fact, hey guys, for the people who are like, oh, the trios division is killing things. Trios match, the main event from 2 weeks ago, did a better rating than the main event from last week, which was FTR versus The Acclaimed. So you either have to rest on the fact that there's something driving main events down, or Young Bucks are a bigger draw than FTR. One of those two things you'd have to accept if the ratings themselves are an indicator of somebody being a draw. I don't think they are. But that's why I just somewhat it does. I'm not a believer that the trios division in itself has any indicators for it one way or the other. It just hasn't. It's been fairly consistent with other things. I think there are certain outliers that have given main events the jump, and I'm pretty sure this week the main event probably is going to show some good numbers. I'm going to ask around AEW or wait for Brandon Thurston to get some quarter hours. Somebody will give them to me, I'm sure, but because I'm curious to see how that all did. But either way, ratings, they're always fun. Kylie, anything you want to plug?
Yeah. So you can follow me on Twitter at Fuller_Kylie. I do just random shows like this all the time, so you have to follow me to see those. You could see me on Fightful Overbooked every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern for Tag Talk. We talk about tag team wrestling, all the fun stuff going on. We talk about FTR a lot on that show. So if you want to hear more about that, Tag Talk. I'm also doing romanticized wrestling. We're going to be doing a lot of ROH stuff on there. So you could follow that on Facebook at Romantic Wrestle. Basically just stories in wrestling, just having fun, vibing, just trying not to be negative about wrestling, and just having fun. So that's what I'm into.
Easiest thing we can do. Otherwise, folks, that's it for this edition of Day After Dynamite. Thanks for sticking here with us. I know no Robo Will. I was waiting for it. It didn't happen. But for Kylie Fuller, I'm Will Washington. We'll see you next time. Have a great day. Peace.